And we are live, pod family. Please give me the first couple of minutes, get this all sorted, get my graphics ready, get my notes together, and face the music for another really bad round. We had one or two good moments, but overall tough times. But regardless, we've got to try and look back at the games and talk about where we might have gone wrong or what we've learnt that we can apply for coming weeks. So please let me know if you can hear me and see me. Interact as always. Give me any advice if you've got any. And we'll jump into the round 23 recap at the 2-minute mark of this video. I'll share it into the tripod group as well. Okay, I think she's in. Thanks for commenting, guys. Only a couple more rounds left. So we only got 2 more rounds with 8 games of footy. Hitting the 15-1, although I'll clarify, mathematically it may not have won yet, so it may not have actually paid into people's accounts, but I'll go the early crow on that one. I don't think that can possibly lose at this point. Maybe there's a 1 in a million shot for the Dragons. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the Tripod, where we break down the NRL every game, every week from a punting perspective. I'm Jacob Wynn. This is the round 23 live recap. We have just had a reverse sweep, so 0-4 on the best bets, which actually adds up to 1-9, one best bet winner from the last 10 best bets over the last fortnight. And that's really rough. That's as bad a stretch as I can remember, giving out best bets on 10 different games. And I will talk about each and every loss this week and where we might have gone wrong, or what we can take away from it for sure. But the fact of the matter is, I have to also stress, and I kind of went into this on Wednesday, like if you don't want to lose money each week, or you never want to lose money, punting isn't for you. Like the thing about punting is there are highs and there are lows, and this is low. And trust me, I'm feeling low. So, I mean, you can say what you want. To me, I don't think anyone can make me feel any worse than I naturally do anyway, because a lot of work goes in. So when you lose, it really hurts. For what it's worth, of our, we've lost 9 of the last 10 best bets, 6 of them within a try. So I feel like that's, a bit rough when you got that many close calls amongst the 6. And even of 9 losses, you got 6 that lost within a try. You got a Melbourne Storm game where they're up 16 at halftime, didn't carry on. You got the Bunnies game, which they were leading 12-0, didn't win the game. So, I mean, I could make excuses for why we've gone so badly in the last 10 tips. Clearly, I'm not going to keep going at 10%. But the fact is, it would not be genuine of me to say it's just bad luck, because if I'm saying if we've been unlucky in the last 10 weeks, then I'm saying my record should be better than 61%. And I don't really believe anybody's record should be better than 61% after 23 rounds. So I think we've just had maybe some more of the closer ones have caught up with us in the last 2 weeks, as opposed to maybe we were getting a better rub of the green earlier in the year. That's not saying that I've done a good job the last 2 weeks. I definitely want to improve, and a lot of these tips haven't been good enough. So I certainly want to get better, and I won't lie, it is hard. You want to trust your opinion, but you also don't want to be stubborn. You want to try and see, is there something I'm not picking up on? Has a style of play changed? Are there teams that I've just got a bad read on at this point in the season, and they're murkying up my view? So I just try and give you my view, as I always do, but I appreciate anyone's feedback, because as I said in the group, what I say is not gospel. What I say is just how I see it and what works for me, and all I can do is keep sticking with the plays that I know work for me. Now, on a positive note, we won the mixed matchup again. So we've won 13 of the last 14. $2.25 is what I gave it out on Wednesday night. That's what I'll count it in the record at. But as I said on Wednesday, TopSport's going to make the odds a little bit more fluid on the mixed matchup, not for any reason to try and get one over the punters. As you guys know, this week it went our way. The odds went up 50 cents. So a lot of people actually cashed a $2.75 mixed matchup this weekend. And that was because I kind of said on Wednesday, look, we're needing Manly to hold the Raiders to a low total. There is a possibility Turbo gets ruled out. For me, that doesn't kill our tip, but it would hinder us more than it would help us. That ended up happening. It was a bit of a shock. I'll talk about the whole Turbo saga when I get to the Raiders-Seagulls game. But TopSport, in fairness, they reflected that move in the Raiders team total. The Raiders team total went up 3 points just by virtue of being in a closer contest, and that made us more of an underdog, and we got 275. But as I say, it can go both ways. A player could be ruled out that helps the mixed matchup. So just keep that in mind for the next few weeks. On one hand, you want to keep your powder dry and get the best price, as always, we always do. On the other hand, price can drop, as you guys know, just like any best bet, or same for mixed matchup. But, to win 13 of the last 14 at the odds we're getting, that is really hard to do. I think you could punt for a long, long time at those odds and never win that amount. So I guess I should definitely not complain about variance or anything like that, because especially in a week where we reverse sweep, to still get the mixed matchup, and we had a little bit of luck getting a late try that got us over the line. But boy, it was about time we got a bounce our way. Another positive, we won the 15-1 season multi. So the multi that I gave out in the preseason with 7 legs, 3 teams to make the 8, they all made it so easily. Even Parramatta, who've gone into a tailspin, really locked in a top 8 position weeks ago. But to miss the 8, we had Bulldogs. We had Dragons and Cowboys who, have been in the hunt in the last month, but they've just fallen away, and the Dragons lost today seals their fate. Although I was just saying you may not have actually been paid out yet, because there may be like a 1 in 10,000 probability that the Dragons could get in. But really the position they're at with 8 wins, I really think you're going to need 11 to get in, and the Dragons have a bad differential. So, crucify me if this doesn't end up getting up, but I'm willing to go the early crow, so to speak, and claim victory on the 15-1. So look, in a shocking round, we sit back with 61% best bets, with 71% mixed matchups. The profit is 3,000 if you're having 100 on every play. That's not including the multis, which now is up 19 units, because I am including that mixed match. The preseason multi at 15-1. I am going to call the victory there early, because that is going to win. Let's go game by game, and that includes talking about the 4 best bet losses. So we start with the Titans Storm, which was the opening game of the round. The Storm beat the Titans 34-20, but it was still an interesting game to watch, especially the fact that the Titans got out to a 10-0 early lead, and the Titans need to find 2 more wins. So they ended up losing this game. The Titans, to make the 8, will have to win their final 2 games. When you get up 10-0, and of course the Storm had a couple of guys out, Jerome Hughes out, a couple of key forwards as well, you had to feel the Titans were a sniff in this one. 16-12, they ended up being in front at halftime. But the thing is, you've got to remember, the Storm were 20-point favourites coming into this game. When you're that big of an underdog, you need to take your chances. And I actually thought the Titans, when they were up 10-0, actually had further attacking sets. They wasted them. You can't be wasteful against the Storm. Second half, the Titans simply couldn't go with the Storm, and that's now 19 straight wins for the Storm. I thought, on a positive note for the Storm, once they switched on second half, Munster had one of his best games he's had for a long time. Pappy, his best game since returning from the bad concussion symptoms, and Harry Grant was a maestro. I think even if the Storm can't get all their forwards on the park in the next week or 2, or certainly in that finals game, I think Brandon Smith just has to convert to full-time playing in the forwards and just let Harry Grant run the show at hooker there. You've just got that luxury. And on a positive note for the Titans, Jaden Campbell is a really talented player. He's going to fill the ball. Titans have going for them is the fact that they played this game on Thursday. They get the longest prep now into this must-win game that's coming up. Let's move to the Raiders Seagulls game, which was a very interesting one. We didn't have a best bet, but we did use this game for the mixed matchup, which ultimately was successful, although we were not sure that was going to happen by full time, especially considering that we took the Raiders to not score many because we needed the Dragons to outscore the Raiders as an underdog. And it was 12-0 to the Raiders after half an hour, 12-0 at halftime. Before that, just a quick wrap because it's been a bit all over the place. Sunday morning, news comes out. Tom Trbojevic, best player in the world, and no argument, greatest form of any player in the competition and most meaningful to his team. And as we learnt this week, worth 10 points. News comes out, he's got a fractured cheekbone. He's definitely out 2 to 3 weeks minimum. So then instantly this line, which was, I believe, 15.5, 16 maybe, shoots down to -6 Manly. And everyone's snapping up the plus 16 on the Raiders if they can, and the line's suddenly down to 6 with Manly. Then a day later, the news comes out, false alarm, and the line shoots all the way back down to -7.5 because, sorry, I've got it wrong. Sorry. When Turbo was out, the line goes from 14 to 6. Then the news comes out, false alarm, and the line goes all the way back from -6 all the way back out to as high as 16.5. And the line for the Raiders was plus 16.5 on Wednesday when Turbo was named at fullback and expected by everyone to play. However, there was still that possibility that the Seagulls would be cautious with him, and in the end they were, and he got ruled out the following day on Thursday. The line shoots all the way back, I think, around kickoff, 7.5 to 8.5, depending on where you played it, and clearly it gave the Raiders a much better chance. So that's just a crazy one to have a line move so significantly just purely based off news that was not even certain, but really just rumor and people guessing what the Seagulls would do. But of course, it was an extreme case because Turbo is so important for the Seagulls. It's a word of warning, I think, as well, that there's going to be some games played by some teams with team lists and with personnel in the last couple of weeks. And that's a little reason why I came to that agreement with TopSport that we will allow the mixed matchup odds to be able to be moved because there's going to be unforeseeable personnel changes, I think, in the next couple of weeks, especially with teams with one eye on the finals. So something I can't always control. So we just want that market odds to always reflect a fair price. But the only other thing, the game itself, obviously Raiders were up 12 at halftime, but the Seagulls did actually switch on in the second half, and I thought their forwards led the way, in particular their back row, Jake Trbojevic, Olakuatu, Schuster. They came out with a purpose. The Seagulls want that top 4 spot. I think they really showed that desire. Some people have questioned whether you rather finish 5th to dodge the storm, but I don't think the Seagulls subscribe to that because they have the belief that when Turbo comes back, they could upset the Storm in round 1. They certainly believe that in their camp. They fought hard. They controlled the second half. They got out 18-12 over the Raiders. Cherry kicks a late field goal, seals the game with a minute to go, or so you would have thought. Seagulls are up 19-12, all celebrating like they've bloody won the comp. I'm thinking just make sure you don't let in any cheap points at the end because 12 points by the Raiders is sweet for the mixed matchup. The Raiders try to regather a short kickoff. It falls into Cherry Evans' lap. He streaks away into the Raiders' half. At this point, you can just get tackled and time's going to expire in the next 45 seconds. But no, Cherry Evans then throws an intercept. The Raiders score one tackle later, a 60-meter try, which gets them to 18, which is a big difference for the mixed matchup. And I'm not just saying that's all, you might say that's irrelevant now because we ended up winning today. But it wasn't irrelevant because then there was still 20 seconds on the clock when Seagulls had to kick off. The Raiders get a penalty. They kick it to the 30-meter line of the Seagulls, and Jordan Rapana has a 2-point field goal shot to win the game. Now, he shanks it and it doesn't go close. But that was absolutely insane that the Raiders could have won a game where they were down 7 with 90 seconds to go. So that one hurts the Raiders. They're in the same position now as the Titans that I outlined. The Raiders will have to win their final 2 games. I believe next week they play the Warriors, who will be maybe a bit deflated after what we just watched. So the Raiders season is not over, but the Raiders end the year against the Roosters. That's a tough ask. It does depend as well where the Roosters sit on the ladder. Maybe the Raiders get lucky. Maybe they play a Roosters side that's happy to be 5th, and maybe the Raiders do win their final 2 games. Let's move to the next one on Friday night. This was the first one I had a best bet, and this was a really interesting game as well. And I think there's going to be a lot of opinions to take out of this one because it ended up being a lot more like a finals game than I anticipated. So I think it was actually a pretty good finals preview. That was the Panthers 25 beating the Rabbitohs 12. My best bet was the Rabbitohs plus 5.5 at $1.80, which I thought was a gift from Bet365. The prevailing line or the consensus line everywhere was 2.5 on Wednesday night when I liked the Rabbitohs, and I would have just taken 2.5 as a best bet. Find 5.5 for 20 cents less. I thought that's even stronger. By kickoff, the game's pick 'em. So we're on the right side of a line move, and again, that's not the only way you judge a bet, but that's a good start, certainly if you're beating the line. And then, as I said before, the Bunnies got out to a 12-0 lead. So it was, a great position to be in, and I was feeling great. Now, later in the first half, I do think the Panthers got a couple of fortuitous tries. Both the Panthers' tries were kind of off half breaks down the right wing. Momorowski kicks it back in field and just happens to find a teammate perfectly in both scenarios, where one bounces into the lap of Nathan Cleary and another one snatched out of midair with one hand by Stephen Crichton, who moved to fullback to cover a loss of Dylan Edwards. So I think that the Panthers were feeling pretty lucky to only be down 2 at halftime, and I was a bit disappointed because I felt like Souths deserved a bigger lead than that. In the second half, Penrith just tightened the screws like you wouldn't believe, and this was a part of the handicap that I got wrong, and I really questioned how desperate the Panthers would be to win this game. They showed the form and the desire of what we'd seen from them last year and what we'd seen from them in the first half of this season. They had not played that level for months, really. They were their line speed, their contact was just immense. And basically the Bunnies, who I actually think came into this game in really good form and really sharp, honestly never got an opportunity to play any footy on the front foot in the Panthers half for the whole second half. I mean, and I know people will say, well, that just shows the Rabbitohs can't beat the Panthers. And there is an argument for that because Penrith will still get back To'o. They'll still get back May. They lost Edwards at halftime. Fisher Harris didn't play. Whereas the Rabbitohs, I don't know which players would come into this side to make it stronger. So I get that argument, but nothing went right for the Rabbitohs in this game. I mean, the Penrith, I believe in the second half, was 19 of 20 completions. So they were flawless basically with the footy. The Rabbitohs dropped about 3 bombs and completion rate was about 50% second half. So they never gave themselves a chance. As I said, the Panthers were just all over them and they never could get by a call either. Penalty count lopsided, 6 again count. And I actually was impressed by the fact that the Rabbitohs were only down 18-12 with 15 to go. All that pressure only amounted to 1 second half try by Penrith to that point. We finally get the first opportunity of the game to attack off a spilt ball by Crichton with about 8 minutes to go, and the downtown penalty is called. And look, I watch every game. I've watched every minute of every game for years. I still can't quite understand that ruling. I never understand how the refs pick it up. Usually they're right when they pick it up, but I never know who's looking for that or when it gets applied or if it happens heaps of other times in games and it's missed. I'm not going to complain about the rule just because it went against us, but it's just a bizarre one. It's a ruling that you only see called a handful of times per game or per season, and it was brutal timing for the Rabbitohs. You're talking 0 tackle, ball on the Panthers 30, to at least throw what they had at them. We didn't get to see that. In fact, Penrith goes down the other end, kicks a field goal. In the end, Penrith then scores a try with 30 seconds left when, the result was decided. So the scoreline probably doesn't reflect what an arm wrestle it was and how intense it was. And again, I think a lot went wrong for the Rabbitohs, but I definitely think Penrith deserved the win. So tough one for us to swallow, being on Rabbitohs for a best bet there. That's a play I'm always going to make. The way I felt going into that, I could not foresee Penrith being as good as they were, but give them credit. It's definitely good signs for Penrith, as I said, with the personnel they've still got to come back. Now we move to Saturday, and I will say of all the 10 best bets that we've had in the last 2 weeks, if I could take any of them back, this is the one I wouldn't want any part of again. So I definitely say I got this one wrong, trusting that the Tigers were going to come out with a good performance. And my reasons, among other things, a little bit of confidence coming off 2 wins, but also the fact their season was on the line. But it was evident to me very early in this game that the Tigers did not show up to play. Now, they ended up losing the game 50-20. Our best bet was Tigers plus 2.5 in the first half. The Tigers did score the first try, which was promising, but they ended up going down. I think they were down about 10 or 12 points at halftime, and the Sharks should have scored 6 tries. The Sharks scored 3 tries in that first half, but it was beautiful conditions in Rocky, and if the Sharks had been a little more sharp or hadn't dropped the ball or hadn't had a call go against them, the Sharkies would have been up 30 at halftime. The Tigers had no hope in this one. And what's relevant about that as well is that it's not like the Tigers were in it for 40 or 60 and then gave up once they couldn't win. They were just like beaten from the jump. And you have to give a lot of credit to the Sharkies. They didn't look like a team that had just suffered a really tough and narrow loss the week before. They looked the more energized, and they are a resilient bunch. And they got some valuable points differential here, winning that game by 30, a game that a lot of people thought should have been closer. Certainly on paper, went the fact that it was an elimination game. And I go back to 2 or 3 weeks ago, that game where the Sharkies were down like 36 with 20 to go against Manly and looking like they're going to get beat by 50. And Manly took turbo off, and the Sharkies actually scored 3 late tries and only lost by 18. You add those kind of results up where the Sharkies have finished strong. That points differential is now vital. I talked about how the Titans need to win 2 straight to get in, and same equation with the Raiders. Well, the Sharkies are in the same boat. They've got 2 winnable games, especially if the Storm don't play a full-strength side in round 25. And the Sharkies have actually improved their points differential. They've actually got their nose in front of a team like the Titans. So it's not just the 2 points, it's the points differential is massive for the Sharkies. I also thought Metcalf and Trindle did really well in the halves, and Moylan chiming in off the bench was a big positive. I mean, the Tigers would have loved to have a guy like Dane Laurie available. Obviously, they lost him a couple of weeks ago, but he would have done great in a game like this on a beautiful sunny afternoon. But instead, it was the Sharkies who ran riot, and that is quite disappointing for that. The Tigers would dish up that type of performance, but people did warn me, Tigers don't play well 3 weeks in a row. Coming off 2 wins, they did what they do. They crashed back down to earth. Thankfully, the Tigers have 8 wins. We needed over 7.5, so that's one thing. We don't have to sweat on the Tigers getting any more wins this season. We can be done with them. Moving to another tough loss. Well, there's been a few tough losses the last couple of weeks. I'm not saying the Tigers one was, but the Bulldogs against the Knights was not a popular pick, but I took the Bulldogs plus 8.5 in the first half. And what frustrates me about this game is I feel like the game did play out as I saw it and as I kind of said it. And unfortunately, we lost. It was 10-0 at halftime. So we had plus 8.5. So we lose there by 2 points. And the Knights only scored 2 tries first half, both off kicks, including a pretty fluky one where Mitch Barnett does his best Greg Inglis impersonation of diving for a ball that's bouncing over the dead ball line and batting it back in to a fellow middle forward. And I think Saifidi grounds it. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs had a chance to ground a try in the in goal with 5 minutes to go in the half. It's called a try. They check the replay. It's a bit of a messy one by Allen. I actually still thought you could have given it, but it just hasn't been our fortnight. Overturn that one, lose the half by 10, come out and score first, second half, cover the game and only lose by 6. But it's one of those ones where I've talked all year about I think we're getting an advantage playing these bigger underdogs in the first half because I think they've got a better chance of covering half the line in the first half because of the propensity for games to blow out. But it's not a sure thing. And this is one of those times where, of course, we would have been better off just taking the full game line. In fact, the Bulldogs won the second half. So the scoreline didn't really suggest how close it was, to be fair. The Knights were always in control. And I thought Jake Clifford had his best game for the club. And the Knights' equation for them now is they probably just need one more win to make the finals. So they're in a pretty strong position with 2 winnable games to go. Moving to Saturday night, as I kind of suspected, the Eels did get the win, 32-16. They beat the Cowboys, but you didn't want to have money on the Eels. There's too many uncertainties coming into this game. The thing was, though, that they were coming up against an opponent that was much softer. Remember who the Eels have played recently. Manly, Souths, Roosters. So now you play a Cowboys team that did get the hammer back at fullback and they slotted Val to the wing, which was a big boost. But they got a bunch of guys that are very inexperienced playing in this team and guys who aren't out and out, centers playing in the centers. I think it was Hampton and RC playing this week, and then the kid came on in his second game off the bench and played some center, and they had a rookie on the wing. And the Eels were able to at least build a little bit of confidence and show that the squad is not, totally discombobulated. But even then, if you had played the Eels minus 10.5, or maybe you took minus 12.5, 13 plus once you found out Taumalolo was not going to play, you actually did have to sweat. The Cowboys scored a couple of late tries, and the margin was just 10 points with 5 minutes to go before the Eels did get a try off a drop bomb. So in the end, I think the Eels deserved to cover. They ran rings around the Cowboys most of the night. And the Cowboys now, it's just all about the future. They're going to keep seeing what they've got in these young kids. So I'd be very wary about backing them, but I shouldn't rule it out because I never rule out betting honour against any team. We'll just see what the lines that end up shaking out to be. But for Parramatta, that win at least gives them a little bit of confidence. And for them, it's just all about finals week 1. It's all about getting a team on the park in 3 weeks' time that can win that opening finals game. And realistically, it could be up against somebody like a Canberra, like a Cronulla, like a Gold Coast. And they're going to have a game on their hands. And that's the key for Parramatta. That's all they really should be thinking about. Let's move. Another thing I did pick up, though, which I thought was worrying, Mitchell Moses had a better game, but he wasn't taking the conversions. And Gutho's not a great goal kicker. But I just thought that clearly shows that Moses is playing not 100% because he's definitely the first choice kicker. And if he was choosing not to take the conversions, then you worry if he's got some sort of lingering issue. I think Parramatta still has several issues, but that is one as well. Moving to today, we're mixed emotions today, and it didn't start great. To avoid the reverse sweep, we needed the Dragons plus 6.5 in the first half. Again, taking that underdog with the first half line, feeling a little bit stronger about that because this game, had the potential for the Dragons to let go of the rope, and that did end up happening. And again, we get pretty stiffed here. The Dragons were down 14-6 at halftime, so another one that we lose by 1.5 points. And I think it's a different first half if Ravalawa can just pass inside to Dufty when they made that early break and they've got a certain try that Ravalawa butchers, throwing it forwards. You get up 6-0 there, I think it can be different, but that's the way it goes. I even think Bud Sullivan had fingertips, was so close to a grounding as well. We didn't get that call either. And as I say, in the end, it just feels like sometimes when nothing's going your way, that it just feels so much tougher to just get that winning feeling. So yet again, we went down. As I said, this is among the worst run of tips I can remember. And we've given out 4,500 best bets over 7 years. So obviously, when you're talking about that, there's going to be runs of 10 tips where you're not going to win many of them for sure if you're going to pick the worst runs of 10 tips. But this is up there for sure. And so that hurt. And Dragons only had 6 points at halftime. So we needed more than 18 for the mixed matchup. So it wasn't looking good, but the Roosters had a couple of players that copped some knocks in the first half. It was, again, beautiful afternoon conditions in Toowoomba, and that was a factor in the mixed matchup. I always like playing a team that's playing day conditions to score more than a night conditions game. And another positive for the Dragons, they had this Amone kid, and he's just playing fearless in there in the halves. I thought he was a shining light for them. The Dragons actually came from 14-0 down to take a 16-14 lead. So again, I feel like after an hour, the Dragons were in front, but we didn't cover plus 6.5 halftime. It's a little bit stiff, but in the end, once the Roosters got back out in front, and I thought they've obviously got their stars in Manu and Teddy, who are awesome every week, but I thought Verrills was really classy in this game as well. Once the Roosters got back in front, it broke the Dragons back. You could tell the Dragons had had enough, well and truly. They didn't want to tackle. They didn't want any more part in the game. And unfortunately for us, they only had 16 points on the board at that stage. So I was thinking we just need to get in the back door here. There was about 15 to go with the Dragons just needing one more try, and we got it. Kind of out of nothing. As I say, they were just getting steamrolled, but we get a midfield break and we get in under the sticks, and I'll absolutely take it, as I said, to cash another mixed matchup. That has been phenomenal this season, really. There's no rhyme or reason why we should be winning at this rate with a bet that's an underdog every week. And if you don't think it's an underdog, you can just look at the team total markets. So it's not an easy one to pick each week. I give it my best shot, and I'm glad to see that the results are really fruitful on that side of things, much less so on the best bets. But be back to the drawing board, of course, for Wednesday. We'll see how we go. I'll try and reassess everything, and I'm sure we can still find some value spots, and then hopefully some more will go our way. I've got to, of course, touch on one more game, which was the Broncos in a nail-biter beating the Warriors 24-22. Enthralling game, really. Back and forth. And the Warriors needed this one to keep their season alive, and ultimately they fall short. And Reece Walsh is such a star player, and it just rubs it into the Broncos' noses every time he has a classy moment, especially doing it at Suncorp Stadium against the Broncos. But the one flaw in his game, or one area that he can still improve, is goal kicking. Reece Walsh, 1 of 5 conversions. The Warriors had more tries but lost the game. Every kick, Reece Walsh curls it left to right, yet every kick he seems to aim at the post and then wonders why it misses to the right. I was hoping that the Warriors would win this game because I would have liked to see them carry on being in the finals hunt. There was a controversial moment late. Let me know what you guys thought. The commentators, Warren Smith and Cooper Cronk, were incredulous that the try was awarded to Aitken, saying that Xavier Coates had grounded that ball. I actually was all right with the decision. I thought there was a simultaneous grounding. I thought while you could see Coates' hand on the ball, I also thought Ewan Aitken had his left hand just kind of on the side, and they both touched it down at the same time. So I was actually happy enough with that call, but maybe it's because I kind of have had a soft spot for the Warriors and wanted to see them win. But in the end, it was an anticlimax because they missed that conversion. But it was an exciting game. The Broncos were up for it. So were the Warriors, of course, with their season on the line. Like, Hiku was massive, and they fall short, unfortunately, for them. But at least we got quite an exciting game of footy to end the round, although from a tripod perspective, nothing was on the line in that game. So that will do it, guys. As I say, all I can promise is I'll do my best. But that's what I do every week, and then the results will fall as they may, and we're going to have good ones, but we're also going to have more bad ones to come. So I have to caution, having a bad run doesn't guarantee the wins are right around the corner. It's just so variable, but all I do is try and give us a good shot in every single game, and we'll see what happens. But I do appreciate all the support as well throughout the week, and especially even in the tough times. People at least can appreciate I'm doing my best, and that there's some positives to find in amongst it. And it's kind of a roller coaster of a season-long punting where not everything's going to go our way, and we got to ride the bad times as much as we can then celebrate the good times. But we'll see what happens on Wednesday. I'll be back anyway. I'll be aiming for a 5:45 Eastern time preview of round 24. We've only got 2 regular season rounds to go, so hopefully we can make the most of it. I'll certainly do my best. I'll see you then, guys. As always, gamble responsibly. Lego.